You guys ready to roll? Oh man, I've played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. For those of you who know, you know. Let me just help the rest of everybody else along. D&D was and remains sort of an entryway to a world in which you have agency over what you choose to do, where you are.
Jeff, your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. What do I do? Roll dice?
You don't have to be downtrodden or nerd or picked on or beat up.
Check it. I am Brutalitops, the magician.
You can be a lot of things, and you get to pick exactly what you want to do at any moment, right? So for those of you who don't play D&D, it's not like a board game.
Shouldn't there be a board or some pieces or something to Jenga?
No, this is a role-playing game. It takes place entirely in our collective imagination.
The best way to describe D&D, or any tabletop role-playing game, is to think of it as a collaborative, improvisational acting troupe with rules to determine the outcomes of given actions, right? And I don't want to give short shrift to other games. I've played a lot of other games too. I played a lot of the White Wolf games, Vampire the Masquerade, Wraith, the Oblivion, Werewolf, the Apocalypse. Not as much Mage. I was always impressed by Mage. I wanted to play more Mage. It just didn't happen. We've done a lot with Aberrant, and by the way, I just watched The Boys. That is as close to, that is like an adaptation of Aberrant. It's crazy to me that there wasn't lawsuits, and I guess it was a comic book, so maybe there were lawsuits, but it's like, whoa.
I'm the Homelander. And I can do whatever the fuck I want.
I've played a lot of Warhammer 40,000. Oh my God, I've played a lot of that. My first army back in the 90s was 3rd edition Warhammer 40,000. I played Space Wolves. I didn't really know what I was doing then. And later, I put together a Grey Knights army based on a White Dwarfs article before they had their own codex. And then I played Grey Knights for a while. They were really rough, man, early on. There was like no anti-tank weapons in that list. Just like, you just couldn't beat tanks. It sucked. Oh God, it was the worst. Oh shit, this guy's a nerd. Yep. So I played a lot of D&D, and I finally got myself some 5th edition books. I'm gonna run a 5th edition game. And actually, we're gonna stream it. So we're gonna try that out. And if you're into that, it'll be in the link below in the pinned comment today, actually. Today we'll be streaming. Maybe not right the minute you're seeing this, but tonight, I think probably 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll kick this thing off. We will be streaming a campaign that I'm gonna run for some friends. This is news to me. I'm an old nerd. I'm a pre-digital nerd. I didn't know that all of a sudden, while I was like not looking, people were like watching people play D&D on the internet. I was a total accident when I name-checked Critical Role at the opening of my Stranger Things episode. And now, of course, I'm a big fan. I love MCDM. Those guys are fantastic. And actually, just earlier this week, if you're a regular listener, I was on
Dragon Talk again. We would like to welcome Greg Tishin to the podcast. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, and thank you for having me, guys. This is fantastic to be here. Long story short, we're talking about today the 2 drinks that I mentioned on that podcast. What I'm calling Tavern Punch for Dungeons and Dragons, and also we're gonna have something called Kobold Kooler. When you're looking at fantasy materials like that, when you're looking at, well, what can I make a drink from that from? You know, you think D&D, you think potions, okay? And I'm thinking like, well, what's the standard potion for Dungeons and Dragons, right? A potion of healing. I gotta tell you, I don't think we have, in any game of D&D I've ever played, have I ever encountered a potion of healing. Ever. It just wasn't the kind of D&D we played. There certainly wasn't a store where you could buy healing potions. So I don't think of that as being the standard core, first stop when adapting a D&D consumable into a drink. But I do think about taverns. There's a lot of taverns, and I do think about the fact that, like, realistically, it's you and some friends sitting around the table for hours on end. And so you want something that everybody can share, that's not super high proof, that is appropriate to the setting, right? So I think about shared drinks, I think about taverns. I got myself this 3-liter cask. You don't need one, but it's pretty awesome if you can get one for presentation. And I am going to basically whip up a batch of a very traditional style punch, Tavern Punch. You might even call it an all sorts. Now, this is all going to be using lower proof spirits. Traditional punches would be with rum or Batavia Rack or brandy or cognac. We're gonna stick to something that's a little bit more, a regular mealtime drink, something that won't knock you on your butt so that you and your players won't get blotto while you're sitting around rolling dice. I think that's important. You don't want anybody falling asleep or seeing double, but at the same time, it will be period appropriate. And if you've been watching, you've noticed that we've got behind us Viking Blood. Viking Blood. This is a hopped mead. And we have Belhaven's Scottish Ale. This is a lovely ale, a traditional ale, very nice for what we're doing today. A lot of people have asked me for drinks involving mead, and truly what I wanted here was a braggot, which is a style of mead that I don't think, I mean, I certainly can't find it commercially available, which means I think you'd have a really hard time. It's the mead that you would probably actually imagine when you think of old-time mead, which you probably, if you think of like a flagon of mead, you think of like a bubbling, fizzing beer. But mead isn't that. Mead is wine. Most meads are very sweet, honey wine, which Viking Blood, to their credit, they were attempting to be less sweet here by hopping it and adding some hibiscus, both of which would be appropriate for Vikings to use. But at the end of the day, it's not probably the frothy, light, beer-like substance you're imagining. That would be a braggot, which is a specific type of mead. I think somebody told me that Flying Fish might have a commercially available one sometimes, but it's pretty tough to get your hands on. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna combine an ale and a mead that I'm pretty sure is pretty available. Other than that, we're gonna use some traditional punch style ingredients. And what really makes a punch is going to be spirit. And in this case, our spirit will be a mix of Viking Blood and Belhaven's Scottish Ale, but a spirit and the inclusion of nutmeg and Oleo Saccharum. Oleo Saccharum is an old-time ingredient you can make. It's pretty cool by taking like lemons or any citrus, but mine uses mostly lemons, peeling the lemons and putting the peels in a bucket and then adding granulated sugar to it. And over the course of time, the sugar, which is very, very thirsty, will pull the oil out of those lemons, right? So back in the day before refrigeration, we're talking about, medieval Europe and anywhere really, people had citrus, but they didn't have any way to keep it for a very long period of time. They had to figure out a way to preserve it all right away if they weren't gonna use it right away. And you take the peels, put them in sugar, you get those oils out, you can use them for a long time. What I wanna do is start by mixing my ale and my Viking Blood together, and I'm gonna mix them together in this jug, which I will then use to mix them up, and then I'm gonna transfer it to my cask for my part players to sit around and enjoy. So let's go, let's get going here. Let's do that, let's make this drink. I'm gonna open these 3 bottles of ale. I'm gonna drop all 3 bottles of this in here. So these 3 bottles come to just shy of a liter of ale. I want 50% by volume, so 500 milliliters of my Viking Blood. I'm gonna put up some other measurements on screen, but in essence, yeah, I wanna just basically take this up by half as much. So it's there, I wanna get to about there. And I am winging this a little bit. I thought about grabbing a scale and measuring everything out very carefully, but it's not the most, this is not critical stuff, okay? Next, we want 4 ounces of Oleo Saccharum in there. Of course, this is a large serving of this. I'm gonna give the measurements for a single serving at the end of the video in text, so don't worry about that. I wanna add 2 ounces of cinnamon syrup. Now, just because this thing is full, I'm gonna start transferring this into my barrel. I'm gonna add the juice of 3 oranges here. We're gonna add this to our barrel. I'm leaning on some punch traditions from like the 1600s as early as I can go. There's really not much that I can tell you about punch from before that. I can tell you that honeyed wine, mead, wine in general would have been served in the Middle Ages in the classical period and frequently sweetened with fruit, hippocras, and watered down with lead, if you happen to be in Rome. I think that we're hewing fairly close here to the kind of thing that a Viking or these people of this time period would have drank. And of course, there's a slight bit of fantasy here in that we have some wonderful ingredients to be using. It does suck. We'll have to go full Bacchus here. You got to take the top out, the bung out of the bung hole. That's what that's called. It's a bung hole. It's a bung. To get this guy to flow. But we're going to fill ourselves up with a glass of my Tavern Punch. And feel free to use the glasses that you want. I'm using these, what they are Edwardian period punch glasses. Would not be wrong at all to garnish a little nutmeg on top of this guy. Let's see what we've got. Oh, I love a nutmeg smell. Delicious. Oh my God, that's so good. It's perfect. It is not too sweet. It is light. It has such a wonderful texture as the slight amount of carbonation that's in this relatively low carbonation Scotch ale comes out along the sides of your tongue and dances. It is delightful. The whole experience is one of just very mild, earthy sweetness. It tastes medieval to me. This is exactly the thing I wanted to taste. Certainly, not everybody could afford fresh oranges for their punch, but adventurers who deal in gold coin rather than silver, well, for them it should be no problem at all. Finest accommodations at the local tavern. This is my Tavern Punch. If you were playing at my table, this might be what we would serve. And in fact, I think we will be serving it when we do the live stream later on tonight. It is just a fun flavor, earthy, woody, and it'll age quickly actually in a small barrel. In a week or in a few days, this will be dramatically different. I'm gonna top up my cups here. Just imagine me walking around. Aye, sir. Say when the orange and the honey in the mead combine to like this nutty sweetness, this round, sweet honey, nice. Oh, it's nice. It's almost like a toddy. Not quite. I don't know. I love it. I can't wait to see what the rest of the people in the room think of it. Suppose we had some younger players in the party tonight. A wee kobold, if you will. Well, what we're gonna make for them is a Kobold Kooler. And now the first thing we wanna make for them is Hibiscus Tea. You can get dried Hibiscus Tea at a halfway decent grocery store. It's a wonderful pink color, which will make this very exciting to serve. That's really what we're going for here. It is a shake and drink. It's essentially a non-alcoholic fizz is what we're gonna make here. So we're gonna start with an egg white. Want to add 1 ounce of lemon juice. One ounce of grenadine. Make grenadine yourself. It's pretty simple to do. I'll have the recipe on screen here. I did a video about it, but honestly, it's pretty easy to make. And 2 ounces of this hibiscus tea. Double strain this into a fizz glass like this, or any glass is fine, but leave yourself room. Come up about a 2/3. Top that up with a bit of fresh seltzer, carefully, because this is going to want to expand in the presence of that egg white usually. Excellent. Drop a straw in there. And enjoy a delicious Kobold Kooler, kind of in the tradition of very old school soda fountain drinks, and also I think really exciting to look at. Certainly anybody playing in Revere games would be thrilled to drink one of these. Let's have it. It's delicious. That is like an excellent pink lemonade, essentially, with the texture and mouthfeel of an egg white fizz. It is wonderful. Also, look at the transformation that's going on there. It looks downright like magic. Light, effervescent, bubbly, tart, and sweet, and fruity, and pink, and honestly, magical. These are the 2 drinks that I submit as, I guess, my official How to Drink Dungeons & Dragons drink. This is my D&D Tavern Punch, my Kobold Kooler, and look, if we did it right, that egg white fizz at the top will be strong enough to hold up the straw. And there she is in two-tone. Now, if you like the show and you want to see me play D&D or really run D&D, hop on over to the link in the pinned comment below. I am Greg from How to Drink on Twitch. Very creative name that I came up with. You know what? Honestly, I'd love to do more stuff over there. Let me know what you want to see me do. Play old video games, play new video games badly, live cocktail making, live editing, but certainly Dungeons and Dragons playing. We're going to probably set up right here in this room, I think. I think we'll set up in the bar. What stat roll? Do you guys use standard pipe? Let me know in the comments. Standard array, point buy, 3d6, very hardcore game, or 4d6 dropping the lowest. We usually played 4d6 dropping the lowest. I always played a rogue. I used to like to play skill classes, rogues. I played So this one dude, I know, Bill, he ran a campaign. It was like evil campaign. I just went all in on that. Okay, so all in on the bad guy thing. I was a drow with a half fiend template, so a drow tiefling, wizard. So I had a spell book, and I had an iron spell book that I chained to my wrist so no one could take it from me. That was a crazy game. And we always used to roll for random, loot or whatever. And I found like I forget the specific name of it, but it was like a frickin' like greater artifact in a horde. It was like this mirror of soul stealing or something like that. And immediately, as like a 5th level character, I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Like, there's no law to protect me. I'm evil, okay? Like, if I keep this thing, adventurers are going to be coming from far and wide to take it from me. Like, can't I just sell this? No, there's no one you can sell it to that won't use it to steal your soul with it. So, like, it changed the entire character of the game. I just had this burden of this impossibly powerful weapon for my character that I had to walk around with. That was actually the most fun part of that game, I think. I made the mistake of giving players a deck of many things once, and that, like, game went right off the rails. Right off the rails. Okay, so this is the final D&D anecdote. This is a good one. All right, so I told you about my first D&D game. My friend Mike ran it. Before that, I had a box of DragonStrike. You may not have heard of DragonStrike, but I'll bet you've heard of Hero Quest. Now, Hero Quest was Games Workshop's tabletop board game encapsulation of the Warhammer Fantasy role-playing setting. Dungeons & Dragons came up with their own version, DragonStrike, which was even better because it had 4 boards instead of, I think, 1 or 2. But it had, like, this VHS.
Feeling brave tonight? How brave?
That it came with, that you were supposed to watch to put you in the mood before you played it.
Brave enough to do battle with hideous monsters?
It was the corniest, oh my god. There was a dungeon master.
Is this like a video game?
Sorta. But it uses the most powerful information processor in the world. Your brain.
I still quote this to my friends and stuff. Do you think you're a hero? Do you think you're ready to do battle with venomous monsters?
Open your mind, and I'll transport you to another realm.
And there was like this owl bear patrolling the guard.
I hate working for sorcerers. Sorcerers!
It was the corny, it was so bad. It was so bad. I made my friends watch that so many times. I'd just be like, we're gonna play DragonStrike. All right, dude, great. What are we gonna do? First, you have to watch the VHS.
I will not tolerate this insult!
All of my barware is provided by Barfly. If you like the tools I use on the show, check them out. They're great. They make great stuff. And there's a link in the pinned comment below that will take you there. All of my watches are provided courtesy of my friends at Crown & Caliber. If you need a watch or interested in watches, want to know more about watches, you should definitely check Crown & Caliber out. They're great. I'm on Twitter at HowToDrink. I'm on Instagram at HowToDrink. I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/HowToDrink. I'm on Twitch at Greg from How to Drink. And if you want to see us play some D&D, you should get on over there. It'll be great. That's the show, guys. I've told you all about my D&D escapades. Now I'm off to kill some player characters.